Welcome to This Is What I Do, where we explore the work that is waiting to be done in our community. I'm your host, DJ Hilson, and today we are talking to the Kendrah Robinson from the Muskegon County Public Defender's Office. Welcome, Kendrah. We are pleased to have you here with us today. We are the Rotary Club of Muskegon, part of Rotary International, a group of more than 1.4 million individuals from around the world whose goal is to create lasting positive change. We've been doing that here in Muskegon since 1916. One of our goals is improving the local economy. This vocational spotlight program assists students in making rewarding career choices. We hope they can remain in our community and improve life here for all of us. That's why we're here today. Kendrah, let's start with the first question, shall we?
We shall.
All right, Kendrah, tell us who you are and what you do.
All right. Well, you already said my name, Kendrah Robinson. I will start out by saying I am a mother. I have 3 beautiful children, 2 who live right here in Muskegon. One goes to Fruitport. One just started preschool this year. I'm a wife, and I've been a resident of this wonderful county now, going on 14 years straight out of law school. I am someone who loves to be a part, always behind the scenes as much as I can be. But what I do every single day in my profession, I'm a public defender for our Muskegon Public Defender's Office.
Go ahead.
Well, I started there as and working primarily in the family division, which is from the governmental standpoint, anytime their rights are probably infringed on someone, people have a right to representation. So when it comes to the court, those positions were usually when children were going to be taken out of their homes or parents were potentially going to lose their parental rights. So we were appointed as counsel. And I did that for a few years. Now I'm working primarily in the criminal division with people in this county who are facing felony charges. So that's what I do every day.
So can you tell us a little bit about your journey getting to where you are today, and focus maybe a little bit on your education and then kind of what led you to the Public Defender's Office?
Sure. Well, I'm born and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I am a proud Ottawa Hills Indian. And from there, I ran track. And that's what got me a scholarship. Once I placed at Western Michigan University, but I entered Western Michigan with a scholarship going into political science and criminal justice. I loved being at Kalamazoo, and I ran for 4 years. I got to travel the world and travel the country competing, went to nationals. And soon after, DJ, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no idea. So I traveled. I lived in a few other countries, Africa for a few years, England for a few years, Dominican Republic for about 3 months. And finally, my mother said, you got to get serious with your life. Do something. You're wasting my money. But those experiences drew me to know that I wanted to serve. And I decided to go to law school. I attended Thomas Cooley Law School in Lansing for 3 years. And as I stated before, my last year of law school, I met my husband, who is a proud Big Red of Muskegon. And he brought me to this wonderful place. I've been here since. And that's how I got here. So I've been here ever since, going on almost 14 years now.
That's fantastic. He's a pretty good cook, too.
Yeah, he is. He's not so bad. He's not so bad.
So you kind of touched on, maybe emphasize this a little bit more, your world travels. What was it about that really led you to maybe law school or getting into a profession of, or I'll say, public service?
Well, I knew early on that I wanted to be someone who was amongst people. My mother is my pastor, and for 30 years I have been behind the scenes, setting up the chairs, cleaning up the benches, always setting up for programs in the choir, in Sunday school, and all these different programs. And you learn to appreciate everybody from different backgrounds, different walks of life, and going to different countries just really expounded on how diverse we are as a people. I was able to see when I was in South Africa, they were fresh out of apartheid, about, I think, 4 or 5 years at the time, how unified the people were and so anxious to grab onto that sense of individuality and freedom. And I know that so many people in our country take it for granted, and how fiercely they want to fight for the rights of being able to be who they are without someone infringing on that. And I just knew, I don't know how that was going to play out in my life. I just wanted to be a part of it. And I knew that I wanted to meet people and somehow give back. I had no idea what it looked like. But I can tell you, once I went to law school, I was able to be a part of a program called, I believe it was NOLAC, and the New Orleans residential landlord situation where so many people after Katrina were detached from their homes and were trying to get governmental funds to get funding. I was actually able to travel to New Orleans to help people get housing. And after working with that, I absolutely knew that in the legal spaces where I wanted to be. So already in law school, I started to focus my my education on those service projects. And I can tell you, I did not know I was going to be a public servant, but fresh out of law school, I started teaching at Grand Rapids Community College. And then I got a phone call from the director here at the Public Defender's Office. He says, "Hey, Kendrah, we have an opening." I dropped everything. Within a few months, I was here. So I did not know what that calling was going to be, but it was right in the path of what I wanted to do. So,
well, along those lines, now that you have, that's a great story, by the way. I love that.
Okay, thank you.
And tell us what you find most interesting about your job as a public defender.
DJ, you're making me think here. Absolutely no day is the same, right?
Yeah.
You're in the court system every single day as well. I get to work amongst your wonderful staff every day, trying to bring justice in different aspects to people we serve. The best part of what I do is knowing that people who probably couldn't speak for themselves had no idea about the situation they were in, whether they did it or didn't, how to get out of it, how to reach a better result, that I was able to do that for them. As a public servant, as a public defender, we don't get paid, a personal check from our clients. We stand in the gap for those who cannot afford their own representation. So to get a letter, I just got an email 2 weeks ago from a guy saying, I don't know if you remember me, but I saw you in Walmart, but you were my juvenile attorney. And ever since then, I got a job. I have a little daughter now. And it's because of how you treated me that I felt like I can do something better with myself. He said he's working at Family Dollar. And while some people might think, oh, Family Dollar, to me, knowing the path that he was on and that maybe I had a little bit of influence on that, it just touches my heart. It touches my heart in such a deep way. I feel like the best part of what I do is not the paycheck, but it's the fact that I helped someone who probably could not help themselves. And even though they don't show appreciation all the time, that I was a part of that process for them.
I can feel you on that for sure. So, all right, let's talk about what's the most challenging thing, or challenges maybe, of your job.
As an advocate, you don't have much say-so on the end result of many of the things we do. I'm in the felony division, so all of my clients are potentially facing prison time. And while many of my clients are facing trials and tribulations they've put their own self into, I don't feel I have a lot of power over control over that end result. I often have to speak with the prosecutor I work with and asking them, requesting them if they can help me meet a goal that's satisfactory to my client and to the community at whole. But ultimately, the decision that's going to be made is the judge's. And so I kind of feel powerless sometimes, and even though I can know my client, can know their background, can see why they took the path they took, that the end result I feel or they feel that they could want to reach, I don't have control over the last say-so, I guess, of the situation.
So, talk a little bit about your law school experience. And I asked that in this context and I don't know if that was the most difficult part of getting the job or not, but having been through law school and everything afterwards, I can appreciate if that was. So, but, the question is, what's the most difficult part about getting the job of where you're at?
DJ, law school wasn't easy for me. Past undergrad, nothing was easy. Nothing was easy. I mean, I literally got the call from my director, but that was almost 10 years after I graduated from law school. And taking the bar was a struggle for me. It was not anything that came easy for me, and I really struggled to be successful at passing the bar to do what I ultimately want to do, was just serve.
Right.
That's all I want to do.
Right.
And I can say that it's because of that experience that I now wanted to encourage young ladies who might want to go into law school. I have started a program about 3.5 years ago called the Aspiring Law Ladies. And I go to different schools around our county, 7 of them to be exact: Montague, Reese Puffer, Ravenna, Houghton, Whitehall, Muskegon Heights, MCEC, and I know I'm missing out on one. But I visit these schools once a month, and I, with some young ladies who are seniors and juniors who are aspiring to be to go into the field of law. And for 3 years, I have been basically giving them the step-by-step process of the law school admission test, what a bar looks like, what an actual law school book looks like. And at the end of the program, which we're coming upon in about the next 2 months, they get to meet judges from across the country, across the state. Our own Supreme Court justices are going to be there in 2 months to visit them, and other practicing judges on the bench and attorneys who work not in our courts, right? You know that many attorneys never even see a courtroom, and they get to ask them questions I maybe couldn't have answered for the past 8 months. And these ladies are so excited to, be in a position that I wasn't. I didn't have an attorney in my family. I knew no judges. And so I want them to have the opportunity to be able to, let me cut off a little bit of that anxiety or that unknown about going into the practice of law.
Awesome. Wow, that's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about how your workplace values its place in the community. And I want to just tailor that just a little bit to how you value your place in the community as well. Because I know, having been around you now for quite a few years, and
Yes.
most recently the last couple, we're starting to see Kendrah's face more and more in the community. So talk about what has inspired you, and whether it's tied to your work or not, what has inspired you to really take hold of the Muskegon community?
DJ, I mentioned to you my mother was a pastor, and so I was defaulted into always being out, on the go, on different programs, always into something. And when I moved to here to Muskegon, I wasn't working in Muskegon. I was actually traveling to Grand Rapids for about 6 or 7 years. And I knew that if the Lord gave me the opportunity to work here, I was going to own it. I'm part of different organizations and nonprofits, but because they're dear to what I always want to do anyway. I can tell you, as a public defender in our community, we try to give outreach resources to those not only who we serve, but who want to be served. There are many people who want to get their records clean, but they're no longer in the criminal justice system. We want to be a place where people can come ask questions and not just only see if you need representation. But for me personally, I want people to know that just because I'm not your attorney, that I also can try to be a beam of a resource to something else. Maybe I know someone who can connect you to something else. And I found that the more you get involved and more people that have access to you in that positive light, maybe you can connect them with something else. I'm not an octopus. I don't have 20 arms, and I definitely can't stretch myself too wide. But I do know that if you are connected with different resources, not only can it help you in what you personally want to do, which is ultimately for me, give back, but for others too. And I've seen it, depending on what relation I have with different things. People have called me or emailed me or wrote a letter, and I don't know how they find your address. They find your address, but they end up asking you questions. And often, I'm sure you've gotten it before, people ask you questions you can't answer, but you know somebody who probably can. And I think what better resource can we be until we can, other than us reaching ourselves out to others in other aspects of what we do, other than what we do as our job.
So talk to us about the benefit of the public defender's office to this community, and it's, I guess, its unique place, if you will. And I'll say this is prior to MIDC really kind of coming in and funding all over the state. But prior to all that, what was happening here in Muskegon County was very unique across the state of Michigan. So talk to us about the value of that in this community.
DJ, I know you already know the numbers, but approximately, and I might be off by a little, 70 to 80% of all criminal defendants that are charged end up with a public defender in some capacity, whether it's starting at the arraignment or ultimately to complete their case. And I believe before our public defender's office was established somewhere around 2014, it was just kind of moved around contractually to different attorneys. And so now, because we're a central office with state funds, we have not only strict rules we must comply with to stay in compliance with our funding, but to make sure that our clients are reasonably served. We get to meet our clients at the very beginning of their case, meet them at their arraignment, travel with them through the courses of their different hearings, and for them to actually know that we're their attorney. You know, you have one person who's going to stay with you, and although we may rotate a little bit in the office, we're your attorney. And I believe in our county, when people know, even if they can't afford an attorney, that they have someone they can contact, that they can get information from, police reports. I have people contacting me for their ID. I mean, just things that you don't think that are relevant to people, that we can now serve them, not just as their attorney, but in other capacities as well. As our office, we are taking advantage of holistic and social work aspects. So many people are in the situations they are because of drug abuse and other kind of addictions, homelessness. And we can actually touch them in those capacities before their case is completed, get them into treatment programs, which our office is so helpful in making sure those things get into place before a sentence happens so the judge can consider it. Those kind of things weren't in place before, I don't believe. That, oh my gosh, I can actually get treatment before I get into a sentence, and judge, you can see that maybe incarceration isn't the best place. But if you're centralized and have someone to go to, I think these people are better represented. We do something called 72-hour visits, which is late for us but good for the client. Our office visits with our appointed clients who have not been bonded out within 72 hours every single night. So whoever was arrested this past weekend, they're going to visit tonight from 8 to 11 p.m. and again on Thursday. So they know that we haven't forgotten you. Yep, we met you at arraignment, but we're still here. And so I think as an office, we have let the community know not only are we trying to give the best representation, but we're more than just representation. We could be a resource as well.
Well, yeah, having worked in both systems, the contract system and now I was an advocate for the public defender system back when it was being proposed, I see the difference.
Right.
And that's important for me. And that's coming from a prosecutor.
Right.
We have to have an even level, fair playing field and have people represented. So
I agree.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about some life skills, both in and out of work.
All right.
All right?
All right.
Character is often described as respect, trust, and citizenship. How does what you do rely on any of those traits?
Let's start with respect. A public defender is what I do. It's not who I am. But I believe in no matter what I do, you can't be effective in what you do unless the people around you trust and respect you. I don't care what aspect you find me, whether it's at a parade or a festival or just an outing, you're going to see the same Kendrah. I'm going to be cordial to you. I'm going to speak to you. I want you to meet my family if my little 4-year-old is coming around. I want them to understand what community means. And I want people to feel when I have an encounter with them, and I'm going to speak as far as client and attorney, that even though you did not pay me, I'm going to treat you as if you did. And I like to find my clients at Walmart or in the park. And I have no hesitation of seeing them and speaking to them again, because I know no matter what your result was when we left that court, you were respected. That I talked to you like you were an adult. No matter how mad you were and how many curse words you spit at me, that when we left and we parted each other, I treated you like you were the person that you are. It means everything to have character, to be able to, that your word is your bond. It's a difficult place to be in often when the people you're meeting are angry. They're probably at the worst place they're going to be in a long time. They're probably going to face losing their house and their family and their job, their freedom. But to maintain who you are, your professionalism, your kindness. My mother always said to me, Kendrah, you don't have to look how you feel. And I take it personal because sometimes people don't ask you, how are you doing today? But you got to come in, you have to do it, and you have to do it with respect, and you have to be humble about it. And at the end of the day, I'm so happy. I'm so happy about what I've done for others, and I honestly don't want an acknowledgement about it, and I don't want pats on the back, but I'm so glad when I do, because guess what? I feel like, it can come back around. And if that's what I can do by standing out those personality traits every single day, then you know what? All to the good.
Fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about, because we're talking about students now watching these films. So let's talk about and use kind of what you've been telling these ladies of the law.
Okay.
Did I get that right? Ladies of the law?
Aspiring law ladies.
Aspiring law ladies.
Yes.
How you communicate to them. So how would you best tell them what a student should do to prepare to do the job that you do?
Okay. Okay, so we're past law school. We're talking about practice. How to prepare to be a public defender in this community. The job is not for everyone. I'm honestly going to say, if you're scared of people, don't go into this position. If you need to truly have some backbone. I mean, I'm not gruff and I'm not rough, but I can stand on my own. One thing I would absolutely say to anybody who wants to go into public defense, woman or man, is to know your stuff. When you go into that courtroom, do your homework. Read up about who you're talking to. Follow up with what you're going to say. Be timely. I would say that if you want to be a public defender, understand that it's a heavy caseload. In the court that I am in, and I can't speak for all jurisdictions and counties, but in this one, I have hundreds of cases. And I'm in the court from easily 9 to 4:30 straight. I get a break for lunch, but it's case after case after case and after case, and you cannot do it on the seat of you have to be ready. And if you're not, they will call you out on it, bluntly. And it's bad. Take it seriously. Take it seriously. I've never been a private attorney, so I can't understand the aspect or the caseload that they have. But I can say with the amount of what we have and the different kind of cases, learn the law. Be astute. Like to read. And don't mind late hours. I may not be someone who I don't stop working at 5. I usually start because my day is so fluid with cases and hearings and meetings. I'm often doing jail visits from 6 p.m. to 8:30 almost every night. I average about 96 hearings a week. So if you want to be a public defender, I would say, you know what, come in to change the setting, the mindset of what we are. Do something different, and be prepared that if you put the work in, you'll get one of those random letters or those people to come from Walmart who say, I appreciate what you do. I didn't expect that. But I would want to say you want to learn to think outside the box. Be creative. Allocutions mean something. But know how to work with people. If I didn't know how to work with my coworkers and, of course, the prosecutors across the aisle, you can't be successful in this position. But I think that's the best I can offer.
So I got to ask this question because I'm sure it's asked every time you stand in front of a student group.
Okay.
So are you ready for it? How is it that you can defend somebody who you know is guilty? I'm sure you've heard that question
all
1,000 times. So what is
Absolutely.
How is it that you can stand up there and do what you got to do?
Well, I can say this. Just because, well, first of all, I have a job to do, all right? When I swear in, I swore and took an oath to zealously represent my clients. And that is not to take their position and put it in mine. Just because they believe they're innocent of something doesn't mean that I necessarily think they are. As a matter of fact, I will say this, I don't think I've ever gotten any rapist or murderer off. It's not our job to get people off of criminal offenses. It's not. Our job is to make sure that their criminal process is done constitutionally correct. That's it. If it happens to be a not guilty on a trial, then it happens to be. Usually my position as a representative of a client is to make sure that the laws that they don't know, I can voice to the court, that I can articulate on their behalf. I do have to represent people whose positions I am 100% against and wouldn't want them living next to me. But I do so because that's my job. It's my job. I cannot tell my clients' positions. However, I can defend their position, and that's my job. I do my best not to take any of it home. Some things you see are very sad, and it makes you angry. But if you keep in mind that what you're doing is making sure that the law is played out correctly for them in the court system, which is really the only thing that is my job to do, and that I abide by the rules that I had to swear to, you don't take it personal. You don't take it personal, and you don't take their position.
We thank Kendrah for sharing her story with us today, and we thank you for joining us. If you think this program might help someone else, please send them the link, and until next time, the Muskegon Rotary Club would like you to consider doing something good for your community.